Our guest this hour is seated. I like talking about the fact that some people are not strangers to the Situation Room, or strangers to this land that's Kenya. Rueben Kigame, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
How are you doing?
How are you?
Believe it or not, I'm actually well.
You have not changed your sitting position.
No, I haven't.
The last time you were seated, Ndu has changed.
Well,
Ndu has changed.
There must be a reason.
Well, you know what they say, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. So...
It still sounds
something.
French or German. They came from the Luyas.
Something.
Yeah.
How are you, Ruben?
I've been okay, and as okay as a human being could be.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to have seen a new year. I mean, many didn't.
True.
So,
True.
Yeah, I count it a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we introduce people, we say who they are, and then we give their title. The title we're giving you, or where we are today, is Presidential Aspirant 2027. That's a future thing.
That's a description.
That's a description of a title.
That's not even a title.
It's a description of what you will be doing.
It's a goal.
Oh, okay.
An intention.
You can be defined by your goals and intent.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's neither here nor there because it's not dependent on me. It's dependent on
Kenyans.
The Kenyans, the Constitution. If I'll be there in 2027 myself, so a lot of contingencies there.
There's signs that you might not be.
Oh, well, do you ever imagine that you could not be?
No, I don't.
That's actually the first mistake a lot of us make.
You
think we're here forever young, No.
Ruben,
Okay.
Ruben, you're being fatalistic.
No.
We plan for the future.
We do.
Not
absolutely.
knowing what it holds, but we still plan.
For it.
And so
Yes.
part of what we need to plan for is our absence.
Yes.
That we don't often plan very well. But,
Point well made.
And everyone needs to plan for their absence, actually.
Okay.
For your own good and for the good of your family and for the good of society.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think those will be all intertwined
The
into...
politicians in particular need to plan for their future.
Well, okay.
Because it always comes after every 5 years.
They always seem like they'll be here.
I think this will be all intertwined into conversations that we will have today. But let's welcome you to today's conversation properly with the proverb. And Siti will tell you where that's from. And you can tell us what you think about it.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of Rwanda.
Where my namesake comes from.
Yes,
Well, you're Kigame, he's
yes.
Kagame.
Kagame ni kadogo, Kigame ni kikubwa.
Oh, sawa basi.
It's the same. The prefix.
Pole basi.
You can
Ngeli ni
handle
ya
the prefix.
kivi.
Okay.
And then,
Ni vigame vingapi hapo?
Vigame viwili.
All right. Nchi ya Kagame.
Sawa. The most extensive land is the human belly.
Literally so, I guess. Yeah, the intestines that we don't see much are pretty long. I think the large intestines would be like what? About 5 feet long.
Yes.
And the small intestines would be another 10 feet maybe. All in that tumbo. So 15 feet, even if you were to just, let your ugali get lost in there, it depends on how much ugali you eat. But there is a sense in which the tummy houses a lot of unknowns. And that's why some people equate, like what? Corruption, where I come from, say unagula, you eat. So in Kenya, that belly could, for some people, it takes in quite a bit, huh?
Right.
Unagula sana. Yeah.
Okay. So it is extensive. And I think when CT gave this morning, I said, probably we're not even talking about the belly. It's just literal. It's not literal. But makes sense, isn't it? Especially in the worlds in which...
What did he think?
What did CT think?
Yeah.
Well, he'll tell us by the end of the show.
He's a philosopher.
He'll let us know.
I think this is a subject that relates to greed.
Yeah.
Me too.
Ugula, Sinduyu.
Yes, and
corruption.
And its insatiable nature.
Absolutely. And when an African gives you a proverb, it's never quite the hare and the hyena. They're always talking about human beings.
It's about the tortoise and the hare.
The Rwandese there are basically talking about greed. I
Indeed.
agree.
All right. Okay. So, I mean, we talk about goals and intent, Rueben, and, let's just talk about, first of all, we've seen you be quite vibrant on different platforms speaking about certain things, whether it was abductions, whether it was a flailing economy, whether it was gaps in governance according to how you've seen it. And you've gone as far as to say that Kenya is on its knees, and one of the only ways to be able to sort it out is that the president must step down. You've said this.
Yeah, and I couldn't unsay it until he does it.
Okay.
But I need to qualify that beyond talking, I've been on the streets myself.
Yes, you have.
In June, I was on the streets of Eldoret with the young people. In fact, right before the storm of Parliament. When Parliament was being stormed, I was in Mombasa leading the bunch there. I've been on the streets with the doctors. We walked from Kenyatta Hospital to Afya House. I've been on the streets in Migori with JSS teachers. I do believe and feel strongly what the Kenyans are trying to say through picketing and all those different things. So talking is one thing. I actually do believe that Kenya is headed in the wrong direction and we need to turn around. In fact, if you read some of my previous posts on social media, I used to say during Kenyatta's time, we were in
which Kenyatta?
The first one, senior. We were in the hospital in the main ward. In Moi's time, we actually went into HDU, and then during Kibaki's time, we went back to the ward, and after Kibaki, we went into the HDU again, and now we are in the ICU. And once you reach there, it's pip, 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 you're on very, very high dependency beyond what you can survive. And so I actually do believe genuinely that unless we turn as a country, unless we have that jacking situation, we're going to actually crash.
According to you...
And this particular government seems to be on rampage to crash the country.
Okay, to put the paddles on. So according to you, what are the markers or the indicators actually that Kenya is in the ICU? What do you see that gives you that conviction that that's where we are?
So the first thing is the economy, because the economy is the nerve center of any society. If you can't eat, if you can't go to work, if you close business, if you can't pay your workers and so on, there's not very much that you can do to survive. You would have to turn that around to actually survive. And what this current government is doing is actually tightening the rope and saying, yes, you're dying, but just, die a little faster. Yes, it's tough, but let's make it just a little tougher. I've actually just looked at the projections for the 2025-26 finance budget. And we are pushing from 3.9 to about 4.32 trillion before even we answer the question of how we met the last one. I've even lost count because at one point we were dealing with a rejected 2023 budget and bill rather, and then we went into the 2024 one that had us going to the streets. That was suspended and then sneaked back through the back door. In fact, I tell all my friends is that we're actually operating without a budget because you don't know whether we are still using the 2023 one, whether we actually cancelled the 2024, whether we are using the supplementary ones that nobody seems to talk about anymore, or whether we are actually already projecting onto 2025-26, 4.32 trillion. In other words, if you cannot budget for a country, if you have no plan for how you're going to spend what you get, but you go on borrowing, you go on doing stuff as if everything is normal. So the real problem, the real manifestation is our economy. And like I've said, if your wife is unhappy, you don't settle it in the press. So if your children are hungry, there's no way you can hide it, or it's not a public. You go right back to the drawing board and take care of things. The second thing that is a manifestation is the abductions, which is a constitutional violation. It's a violation of international, rules and regulations that we have signed onto as a country. It's a violation against the right to life. And so abductions bother me. They bother me so much that the other day, when I went to the streets to protest in Eldoret, I realized I was surrounded by like 25 policemen, basically stopping me from saying don't abduct. Meaning that we need to go back to actually the anatomy of this thing called the abductions. And the other thing, of course, is that whatever we get, we spend badly, so we steal. That Rwandese barely takes it all. And so corruption is a bad disease. In fact, that's going to probably crush the economy faster than even all our discussions on whether we have a finance bill or not. But overall, really, it is whether this is a legitimate government or not. In my opinion, extremely illegitimate.
Ruben, what makes it illegitimate?
Oh, everything. The way you get people into government, the way you look at institutions, they're supposed to be independent. Executive controls everything. Parliament, the legislature controls the judiciary. When it comes to issues like court orders, there are people who believe they're above the law, so they don't obey court orders. The ordinary mwananchi is supposed to adhere to the law. The inspector police and all these guys, I'll go when I want, dahikadeda, kind of thing. And so when you think about the Kabogos and you think about, the opposition being brought into government and so on, you're running a country without the people's blessing, so to speak. And so what has happened to mark the illegitimacy is that this thing we call social contract, because every society operates under what you call a social contract. You agree that we will allow you to lead us if 1, 2, 3. Now, if you break trust, you become illegitimate.
Okay.
And that is what has happened in this country. People, are sworn in, by force or by association, and they purport to lead us to serve us, but they don't. Instead, they oppress us, so they need to go.
Ruben, if you spoke to the president today,
yeah,
and he's made this statement over and over again, we're fixing this country, is what he says. Number one. Number two, there is no convincing the president otherwise that what he is doing, him and those people that have been put in positions or appointed, that what they're doing is actually in the way in which they see it, the right way to go. How is it convincing the president that actually it is not? Because if you were to speak to him or to anybody in a position of leadership, they'll tell you, look, this is the policy that we've taken on, and we feel that we are doing the right thing. It may hurt a little bit, but we get to the point whereby the sting of the needle will be gone and things will be all right. How do you convince anyone otherwise?
I'm so glad the way you phrased the question. If I was to speak to President Ruto today, what exactly would I tell him? And I want you to follow me very closely. This is what I would tell him first. I'll say, Mr. President, you and I graduated from university in the same year, 1990 to be precise. He went the direction of YK 92 and all of that. I went the direction of multi-party democracy. Mm-hmm. So we went two different ways, but that's not the issue, although consequences are there. I would tell him, when you and I were at the university, you were at the University of Nairobi, I was at Kenyatta University, systems worked. He knows that, I know that. We had food in our dining halls, we had hostels, and when you had like the double intake that he and I were part of, you had all these constructions going on that we call prefabs. Mm-hmm. So extra hostels were built before the students were admitted. Everybody had a place to stay. We had three meals. We had full breakfast, we had lunch, we had dinner, and food to spare. Mm-hmm. And so on top of that, I don't know whether City, you know something that was called boom. You were given a sum of money.
Why would I not know?
All right. So we were boomed.
And I was a recipient.
You were a recipient.
City bought his first car with boom.
I'd be surprised. Probably a big stereo. But so the students had some money. Call it pocket money or whatever.
It was more than pocket money.
Yes. So that system worked in this Kenya. And so fast forward now, and you're given a chance to be the president of Kenya. The first thing you ask is, what is it that made those systems work that we can borrow, or how can we make this thing work for the people? And so instead of, going on rampage, signing every deal possible, just making every wrong decision possible, I would say that's not how we were brought up. That's not how things go. You think of people first before you think of yourself. And I guess that's the major difference between President Ruto and I, that he's going into YK92 and they're buying elections. They're minting money. They're printing money. And distributing in order to win an election. We are fighting for people's rights and inclusion and all of that. Democracy is a big difference. Now, the other thing is we're sort of like 9 months apart in birth. I was born in March, he was born in December. So we're roughly Rika. And so I would tell President Ruto, people my age have no qualms about what people say about them. People my age do not have sleepless nights because a cartoon was drawn about them being in a coffin. It's like City today, you can eat a mbwa. I don't automatically become a four-legged creature. No.
Neither do you even imagine that you are one.
So, and I've been called different things.
Why on earth would I call you a dog?
Well, why on earth would you imagine that people don't call each other dogs?
Yeah, but there are so many other animals to choose from.
Oh, wow.
I'm waiting for the one.
Which one do you prefer?
Snake.
So, in the end, the implications are grave. It's that the anatomy abductions, for example, works like this. You made me angry. I'm going to get you, and I'll do the maximum damage to you. But you're talking about somebody the age of my child. So it's like fighting with a toddler. So, and even for argument's sake, if age and the fact that Ruto has children, I have children, these parents have children. So let's even just get past that, because how you treat my children is how you should treat your children. So supposing that there is a real problem. So, the young people in drawing a cartoon, have messed up. There is a constitution, and there is a plethora of articles in the constitution that tell this government abductions are a no-no. Whether you're just dealing with, Article 29 or 25, Article 49, 50, how you even arrest somebody, you should identify yourself, should tell them why they're being arrested. You should give them a right to appear, with a lawyer. You should not detain them more than 24 hours. All these things are in our constitution. We haven't even touched the freedom of conscience, belief, and opinion in Article 32. We haven't touched on the freedom of expression in Article 33. We haven't even touched on the freedom of media in Article 34. So just this plethora of articles and directions. Even Article 37 says you can picket, unarmed, So if I'm carrying a bottle of water and a phone, how dangerous am I? And I'm just saying this finance bill is wrong, or we do not want to be taxed. So what you should do is go back to your CSs and so on and listen, analyze, what do we do? You don't come and pick my child. Hold them incommunicado for 32 or 34 days. I have no idea where you took them. And it's only by pressure, because we've been pressing so hard for them to be released, then you make all these mock releases. But you're releasing maybe 4 or 5. The institutions of justice and so on are counting over 82 missing persons since June. So it's not just these 4 or 5. We want to know who is abducting our children.
All right.
And why on earth in Kenya with this constitution is this happening in 2024, actually from a while now.
What would be different if it were you? Presidential aspirant 2027 point. Rueben Kigame is our guest this hour, and we're looking at some of these things. We've painted the picture of the problem. I mean, not just painted. A lot of people are living in the reality of the problem, Rueben, from what you said. And so now here we are saying that there's a need for different kind of governance, a different kind of leadership. And also from what I'm hearing is that, perhaps there's something there that you would like to offer, and what would that look like? But apart from that, he's a man who's seen certain things happening in the country, and he's saying, no guys, we cannot be going this way. One of the things that you seem to be looking into quite fervently is the constitution. No emotion, no if, buts and maybes. From what I hear you say, Rueben, this is the supreme law. If anything, we should follow what the law says. You don't have to romanticize it. You don't have to do anybody a favor. Just follow the law.
Yeah, but I need to define why I want to be your president first. I want to be Kenya's president because Kenya needs a philosopher on that seat. Somebody who can think through issues. Someone who can take decisions on the basis of priorities. Someone who can say, you have these 2 options. There is a third way to go. This dichotomy thing is not the answer. Life is not just either or. In fact, if you were to accuse me of something, I would be what you call a trichotomist on the very minimum. Okay. There is always a third position. For example, in any legal case, you have an agreement between 2 people. You still need a lawyer to witness it. And so it's not the Republicans or the Democrats. It's not so much Kenya Kwanza versus Azimio. That's how the West does this 2-horse race thing. There is always a third way or more. And so Kenya needs somebody who can look at, should we have the expressway or should we have cycling lanes or walking lanes? Because, for example, the city of Nairobi has more people walking than driving. You need somebody who can say, we'll put the money where there are feet walking. Okay. Yeah. And so if you had a situation to choose between whether you are going to increase food production and or you are going to invest in green energy or whatever the case may be. Besides being something that is multifaceted, you take the one with the highest good for the people. And so every time I am asked, when you make me your president, not if, when you finally make me your president, the first thing I would have to think about in any decision, is it for the good of the people? Will it improve the lives of the people? Because I'm here for the people before me.
All right. Rueben, we talk about where we are today. You say that the Constitution is not being respected, but let's look at each and every institution, because the president pretty much is surrounded by institutions who have intentionally or have been directed and have ceded the power that they have. When we talk about our parliament, for example, it is an independent institution who ought to run their affairs as Parliament of Kenya. Talk about the police. Police is it is a service. It is a commission, ought to operate itself in a way that is independent and serving the republic. Now, here we are, a situation where we see all these institutions, like Kenyans keep saying, they have ceded their power. Yeah. How do we sort that out? If you were president today, or if you had an opportunity to talk to the president, how would you do it differently?
So if I had an opportunity to talk to the president, I would say, get out.
Simple.
Yes, because this is not what we asked you to do. All right? I mean, every job has a job description. Mm-hmm. And the job description of Kenya is the Constitution. Mm. In fact, we go even a step further and say we swear by the Constitution and the Bible. So if you're not going to respect the Bible, at least respect the Constitution. If you're not going to respect the Constitution, then at least respect the Bible. But beyond these two, it's actually what you are pledging to do. Imagine a doctor being hired that decides, I'm not going to treat people, I'm going to cook instead. That's not the description of a doctor. So if we hire you to serve the people of Kenya, and you swear to do that, you actually swear before maybe 100,000 people as witnesses, and then you do the exact opposite. So the issue is not lack of constitutional provisions, lack of the law, it is the fidelity to that law. And that is what we hire you to do as a president.
As the president, what would be your move in terms of ensuring that individuals who are heading these institutions actually play by the book? Because the IG finally has said will appear in court, which is a good thing. But how would you ensure that each and every individual serving in these positions, in all these commissions, actually get to do their job? And as president, you give them the power to do so.
So the first place you look is not other people. Mm-hmm. The first place to look is yourself. You see, if you are the highest officer, if you are the highest servant in the land, then you must lead by example. You cannot tell people, for example, this is what I'm going to do for you. Then you renege on it. You can't tell people no more abductions, for example. Then the abductions happen, you even deny them. You behave as if nothing is happening. You can't say, we have cancelled the financial bill 2024. Then you sneak it under the table. Once you do that, you're a con man. Absolutely. How else do we describe you? If you tell me, I'm going to give you 500 shillings.
Yes.
Then it comes the time to give me 500 shillings and So what has happened is the executive has abused power and literally, taken over the legislature, taken over the judiciary, taken over all the institutions. In fact, it's no longer a discussion whether we are going to spend this much. Nothing is being debated. The president says it's almost like Trump's executive orders.
Yep.
Nimesema hivi na hivi ndio itakuwa.
Okay.
So Ruben, I'm listening to you and you sound very much like the president when he was campaigning.
Which president?
This one. Yes, because
I told you
you're talking about the things you will do and it's all theoretical. The president told us and made promises, they were theoretical. When he became president is when we were in a position to judge whether what he said was actually going to happen.
Listen, the difference between Ruto and I is what we do with promises. So let's first of all...
Ruben, you haven't been president yet.
So. Well, I have just kept a promise. You asked me to be here at 8 o'clock. I was here.
Well,
so you make
this particular president also keeps time, just for information.
Oh, no, okay, fine.
Yes.
Let's all keep time. Yes. And then what will he say? Please give me more time. That's what all his all his people are saying. Give us time. So let's stick on the question, though. The issue is don't make promises you are not going to keep. In fact, if you know for sure you don't even intend to serve the people, don't offer yourself for that.
Ruben, consider for a single second that when someone makes promises, they have every intention of keeping them, and then they are sent to the position that they desired and suddenly find that the things they said they could do are actually not possible.
They actually can't do them.
Yes. Or even if they can, not quite in the way they said.
No, I do agree that even the road to hell is painted with a lot of good intentions. But we are not headed to hell, okay? And the second thing is that everybody needs to be judged or gauged by how they have lived. And so you put yourself forward saying, test me this far. And that is what we don't do to our leaders. We assume that miracles will happen when they get into office. And all of a sudden, demons will become angels. And those who have been murdering people will actually end up, respecting life. If somebody has been stealing in previous appointments, if somebody has been lying to you before, if you put them in office, that will not quite change. In fact, the evidence you have that somebody has mismanaged or has been adversely mentioned is your red flag for not bringing them close to power. Wait. So the illegitimacy of this government begins with appointments. So what would I do different? I would appoint people into government on the basis of merit, on the basis of track record, and on the basis of whether or not they are people of values.
Are you saying this government hasn't done what you're saying?
Absolutely. They've done the exact opposite.
Do you have examples?
I do have examples. Mm-hmm. So if I was to give you the example of someone that has just been brought into government that was heading the Ministry of Health. When we had COVID, we had an issue with KEMSA. Afia house became a mafia house. Mm. So if I was given a chance to hire into government, that is somebody that would not come near me at all in terms of serving the people. Because there are questions to be answered, there are reports yet to be implemented about, for example, what happened to KEMSA. If someone has been, bad-mouthing Kenyans, insulting Kenyans, calling them names, and so on, you don't bring them into government. You keep them away from government. Mm-hmm. The point I'm trying to make
insulting
is that
Kenyans,
values,
them in manner,
values are everything, CT. Character is everything.
Can you tell the character of somebody before they take this position? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question.
Okay.
That unfortunately, we've been told that, somebody could be, solid, worth their salt, and make their intentions known about what they want to do should they be given the position. But somehow, I don't know if it's the Kool-Aid folks are drinking or what happens when they get in there, but somehow things change. How can you be sure that Rueben Kigame today, when you're saying you will do 1, 2, 3, that you will not also go and partake of the Kool-Aid. It may sound like it may sound like a mockery of a position, but we've seen this historical experience over and over and over again, that the things that you say, the way in which you purport yourself, after the fact somehow changes. Or was that person just like that the whole time and we didn't know?
The only way you can gauge somebody's character is by looking at the past and not the future. Because you have data. You know, if you hired me and I was unfaithful, I took, a couple of thousands off the account, you cannot say, okay, let's just give you a chance. So indeed, there is no way to measure the future.
But there is, Ruben.
We do have the benefit of the Constitution, for example. We have the law. So the issue is, to this extent, how has anyone been with regard to the fidelity to the law?
Ruben, I find it strange, though. The information that you speak of, every presidential candidate will tar the opponent or the person that they're competing with a fairly dark brush. And it's the way politics is. And some of what is said may be true. Some of them may even not be proven. Some of them may be anecdotal. However, how do you blame a presidential candidate for making promises which, as you say, are spurious, and people know or hear and yet elect them? Was anybody forced to elect the president?
And I think as well...
Who was forced? Who is it that was put in chains and dragged to the polling station to cast a vote for this particular person?
And at that point, City, as in terms of who forced, majority of registered voters voted in the government, which makes it legitimate.
Yes.
How do you oppose it, and why?
You guys really sound like you don't live in Kenya.
We do actually.
We do. So here is the thing. We know, for example, that in the last election, more than 8 million people did not vote.
Of the registered ones, yeah?
Yeah, registered, did not vote.
They chose not to.
They chose not to vote. And the reason is they did not have a candidate.
How do
we don't know this, though.
Well,
Ruben, how do we know?
I mean, it's all over social media. I did not vote
social
because...
Social media is not a reference point for the truth. It's a reference point for opinions.
Oh, that's an opinion too.
Yes.
But, so here's the thing. If I tell you, I actually did not go to vote because I did not see a candidate to vote for. That is a fact. And the fact will be proven by me not voting.
But if I give you a reason, I think that's what actually proves the point. If I say that I have not voted this time because I didn't have a candidate, and because the candidates that I see there have 1, 2, 3, then it gives a reason as to why they didn't vote.
Exactly. So,
do we see that? Do we see that?
So the question is, why was there a Supreme Court, discussion on who won the election?
Because somebody took a petition forward, and in this case, it was the one who lost.
So in other words, there was a dispute.
Yes, the one who lost.
So whenever there is a dispute, people are saying that there are people who probably voted, for a candidate that they didn't actually vote for in the first place. But back to the issue that I was talking about, we are actually dealing with values, and there is a way to measure values. And that is by looking at somebody's track record, looking at somebody's consistency, and so on. And while you cannot maybe gauge how I will behave in 1 year's time, you can use my past and consistency or record that I have to decide this person I can trust. This one,
not
maybe.
So
Ruben, I'm at odds with you on that one for the simple reason that I would rather wait to have someone elected so that we can actually see.
Not they're what they're
sold. This prophesying and looking into the future. No, I say this because the narrative that seems to focus on blaming the economy and everything else that has gone wrong on the president is it's a narrative I actually don't believe in, neither do I subscribe to it. For a simple reason. The citizenry of this country are the sovereign. They elect leaders who don't represent them, and then they do nothing about it, and then blame the president, who is the head of the executive, for doing something that anybody in the executive anywhere in the world tries to do. They try to control their parliaments. They all do. Now, if parliament cedes their authority and gives the authority to the president, how is it the president's fault?
And it is why when I asked that question earlier, the president is surrounded by institutions. Parliament is one of those institutions. National Police Service is one of those institutions. The judiciary is one of those institutions with clear-cut independence as espoused in the Constitution. The citizens are sovereign.
Dennis and City, we are all surrounded by institutions. And there is nothing really exotic about being surrounded by institutions. It's what we do with those institutions.
True. Very true.
If, for example, I am supposed to take a law or something into Parliament for consideration by law, this is what it says that this is what it will do. This is what Parliament is supposed to do, for example. Then, as we are doing that, I come and threaten my people. Let me see who will not vote the way, tutaonana huko. So you begin to introduce a different component, and that is the abuse of power or abuse of office. You threaten, literally. So if you were to look at, for example, where we are now as a society, we have everything in our constitution that says abductions are not to happen the way you don't arrest you don't kidnap somebody. All these Subarus that are being talked about, it's not, the police are even saying we are not the ones doing it.
Ruben, but we're in agreement there. There's no parallel universe in which abductions are good or correct. There's no parallel universe where the killing of citizens is correct. There's none.
City?
Yes.
That is very well said until you hear Oscar Sudi speak. And so you live in a country, City, where people,
why is there so much focus on this one person?
Because he basically says something that is contrary to what you just said.
Yes,
and then you have somebody saying, if I had a chance to kill 5,000 Gen Zs, I would kill. And, these kinds of...
I don't think he said that. I don't think he's the one who said that, but I get what you're going with.
I'm saying that it's not just Sudi.
The caliber of the speech that we hear is along those lines.
In a country where abductions are a no-no, where you actually say no more abductions, and we list for you 1, 2, 3, 82, okay, and you can't show us who is abducting our children, and you can't show us where they're being held, and you cannot tell us where all the missing people are. You can't tell us, these bodies from the quarry, whose children are they? If you can't do that, if this is not your priority, if human lives are not your priority, then you are an illegitimate leader.
I have to ask this, though, because I think oftentimes, we wallow in our worry in circumstances where things are, bad, economy flailing, there are holes poked in leadership. But then sometimes we fail to answer the question wholly, that who is a leader? And I'm not talking about the person of Dennis or the person of Ruben. I'm saying, what characteristics should we look for in a leader? Because that essentially is the panacea to all of this. That, okay, fine, who should we be looking for? Is it the person who's going to solve the problems that we see today, where we see infrastructure underdeveloped, where we see children who are not in school, where we see a health system that's in a shambles, where we see so many things going wrong? Is it the person who's going to come and fix us? Because anybody can fix, right?
No, not anybody can fix it.
No, seriously. Yes, you can. Somebody can show up to work in the morning and do the 8 to 5, fill the files, get it done. Anybody can fix it. If you just say, this is your job, get it done. Anybody can fix. But the person who is going to lead, what characteristics should we be looking for? Because essentially, I think that would answer the question that we seem to be so worried with.
No, it depends on the institution because every institution has characteristics demarcated for what the leader of that institution is supposed to do. If I was going to look for someone to lead the health sector, for example, I would look at someone like CT and say, oh, he has worked for Kemri, or he has worked, in this space, so he's probably fitted to lead the health sector. There's no way I can take City, who is maybe so skilled in health, and then take him, to
environment.
Environment, you might even survive.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
So the point
sorry, Rueben. I just need to qualify the question so that we don't go off. Rueben, allow me to qualify this properly so that we don't go off. I think the bigger problems that we see, and at risk of time running out, the bigger problems that we see today are a conglomeration of smaller issues of things that are not done, right? But what I'm saying is, we are saying there's a problem in leadership. So what should we be looking for to say this essentially is what is going to solve the problem?
It's all about values, Indu. Values are everything, and values are what you cherish most. Values are the priceless things that drive what you do every day. So our constitution in Article 10, for example, tells us every institution of government should have these values. Observe this. Even when making decisions, you have to look at this. Mm-hmm. That's what Chapter 6 is all about, that if you are going to lead Kenya, then you must be a person of integrity, etc. Mm-hmm. In the public sector, Article 232 tells you exactly what values to expect there. So values are everything. And values everything, not just in government. They are everything in the private sector. They're everything in the family. If you are somebody's husband, mm-hmm. and you're looking at the neighbor's home, badly, you are violating certain values.
Right.
And so even in government, we must prioritize values. And my mantra right now, mm-hmm. if I was to leave you with one word to fix where Kenya is,
yes,
it would be character is everything. I would like to see character-driven leadership. Let us look at who a person is before we entrust them with a public office.
I'm sorry, Rueben, but at that point, I think it's a great point to end on, and our time runs out. But it's a conversation that we must have further, and we'd ask you to definitely come back again so that we can talk about these things a little bit more. Rueben Kigame, aspirant for president in 2027, but also one who understands that we need values. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Asante.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.